Welcome back to the Red Dice Diaries, and in this RPG review I'm going to be reviewing Legat's Tome of Amazing Creatures, Volume 1. Legat's Tome of Amazing Creatures is a full-colour bestiary that is 56 pages long, written by Jaren D&D and published by Power Up Gamers, Roleplayers for Accessibility. It's available in Drive-Thru RPG, both in PDF and print forms. I'm reviewing a PDF copy that Jaren was kind enough to send me. A Kickstarter for Volume 2 of the 3-part series has just completed, and I'll put a link to that and where you can get Part 1 from in the description of this video. And I'm assuming that Part 2, once it's published and it's been delivered to the Kickstarters, will likewise become available on Drive-Thru RPG. Now, I have to start this review with a small apology. Jaren was good enough to send me a review copy of the PDF some time ago, but alas, as is often the case, real life stuff got in the way, and I've only just got round to sitting down and writing the review. Mea culpa. Power Up Gamers is an online community and publisher whose goal it is to make tabletop gaming accessible to everyone and provide a positive, creative environment in which to enjoy this wonderful hobby. It's a laudable goal, I think we can all agree, and I'll put links to their various social media and all that shiz in the description of this video. If you've not seen one of my video reviews before, what I generally do is do a quick summary at the start, and I award the book a rating of either plus, minus or blank in 4 categories. And these are the writing, the look of the book, the system and the background. And this is so that people who are really busy can just watch the start of the video and get a flavour of the book, and I'll then go on to give a more detailed breakdown for those who've got time to watch a more extended video. So without further ado, let's get down to the ratings. For the writing, I've given the book a plus, since the writing is straightforward and gets directly to the point. It doesn't pad out the entries with pointless wibble. It's the sort of writing I want in a bestiary book. What I want you to do is show me the creatures, tell me what's cool about them, give me some plot hooks, point me at my campaign setting and let me go. I don't want to get bogged down in pointless minutiae. So I was very pleased to see that Legat's didn't bother with any of that pointless stuff. It just gives you what you need to know and stuff that's going to spur your imagination. For the look of the book, I've given it a plus because it's got a beautiful look to it with colourful backgrounds that are interesting without contrasting too much with the actual text of the piece. It's presented in a fairly standard D&D bestiary style format with a brief blurb for each monster, some cool old school style black and white artwork and nice clear stat blocks. For the system of the book, I've given it a blank, and that's purely because it's difficult to judge a book like this based on system, partly because it uses the very popular D&D 5th edition rule system, and there's nothing wrong with that at all, but having not used every monster in it, I can't say for sure how balanced, if that's something that concerns you, or well they work in a game. Reading through them, the creatures look interesting though, and have a mixture of different abilities. Although you better believe if I can crowbar a Star Dragon into any of my games, I'll be doing so at the earliest opportunity. And finally, for background, I've given the book a plus. Every creature in the tome receives some notes on their preferred terrain, their culture, and, more interesting to me personally, some notes on lore concerning them and their history. These notes are very compelling and would serve to spark off many ideas for using the creatures, but they're still generic enough that it wouldn't be difficult to plug them into pretty much any D&D based campaign setting. So, looking at that and adding these ratings up, you can see that the book has a final rating of good. It's a nice bestiary with some interesting creatures in it. While there's no shortage of bestiaries for the various D&D style games, Legat's has some notably interesting beasts and also provides extra value by including a table of adventure hooks and a number of locations at the end of the book. And these are sort of mini dungeons, I suppose you could call them. They don't have maps, but they have descriptions, suggestions for traps, puzzles and monsters, and any GM worth their salt could easily add in a map and just drop these into any campaign. Okay, so let's go through the book in some more detail. Now, I'm not going to explore all of the monsters in intricate, minute detail. I'm sure you all know how these monster manual type of books work. So I'm just going to flick through the book and look at a few noteworthy and interesting areas for me, and then we'll wrap up at the end. So let's crack on with it. So as you can see, we have a nice cover with a dragon on it, and we move into the credits before pushing on to the table of contents and the foreword, which tells you a little bit about Power Up Gamers. This is the first RPG supplement from Power Up Gamers, and they're trying to support an environment that fosters involvement regardless of age, gender, religion, physical handicaps, sexual orientation or political views. We then have the introduction that tells you a little bit more about Power Up Gamers and how they want to put back into the community and make it accessible to all people, which I think is a worthy aim. It also talks about some of the changes they've made from the core sort of D&D style bestiary layout, including tweaking the lair actions, which can be a little bit overpowering. And then we're on straight onto the monsters, which you can see I'm just paging quickly through here. There's that star dragon I love so much. You can see these cool old school artwork on many of the entries. And like I said, there's loads of creatures here, so I'm just flicking through them quickly to give you a flavour of what the PDF actually looks like. It's very beautifully laid out in 2 columns with some extremely interesting creatures with odd little quirks or to fill niches in your campaign world that maybe more traditional monsters haven't quite fit in, or just to spark off your imagination with some interesting new ideas. And let's face it, you can never have too many ideas when it comes to D&D. We have a handy challenge rating and terrain chart, along with some lovely adventure hooks to help give you some ideas. And you know me, I love a random table, so these are a great extra value addition. And we move on to locations, which I described at the start. These sort of mini dungeons that could be very useful in any game with some very evocative names: the Sunken Graveyard, the Eternal Forest, etc. These are a great extra bit of value to a bestiary. Then we have the license, and we move on to the back cover. So I think even just with that quick flick through I've done there, and like I say, it's somewhat difficult to review bestiaries in a more traditional way because we all know the format. They're crammed full of monsters, and how useful or not they are to you depends on whether you need new monsters, how you're going to fit them into your campaign, and if they spur your imagination. And I think in that regard, Legates certainly succeeds in doing what it's set out to do, providing some interesting and quirky creatures that could easily be parachuted into an existing D&D campaign world. The writing is straightforward and no nonsense. The book is absolutely beautiful with some great artwork, as I've said a couple of times, but I really do love that old school style of artwork. And I think if you're looking for a reasonably priced book that is trying to put something back into the community whilst also providing some very interesting and useful content, you really cannot go far wrong with picking up a copy of this. I'm certainly interested to see how the next 2 installments in this series of 3 go, and I'll be looking to get a copy of the second installment as soon as it's published, and hopefully, if I'm not too lax and have a bit of money lying around, I'll also be looking to support the 3rd installment when it's released on Kickstarter. So I advise you to keep an eye out for that and give this book a check out on DriveThruRPG. Like I say, you can never really have too many monsters or idea generators for your game. So I hope if you've enjoyed this review of Legate's Tome of Amazing Creatures, and yes, I'm aware I've not pronounced Legate properly. It is detailed in the front of the actual book how it should be pronounced, but after trying to record the start of this recording several times and kept slipping back into the Legate's style of pronunciation, I decided just to go with it. But I advise you to give this a look on DriveThruRPG and keep your eyes out for parts 2 and 3 when they become available. If you've enjoyed this review, please click like, subscribe to the channel. Feel free to comment in the comment section down below. I really do enjoy reading what you write, and I'll see you next time. Take care, and whatever you're playing, have fun.